San Angelo.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
Roll call for the record. Mayor Pro Tem Powell,
Here.
Mayor,
Here.
Councilor Crane,
Here.
Councilor Weeks,
Here.
and Councilor Humber.
Here.
We have a quorum. You may proceed.
I'd like to get a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Please get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
I don't believe we had any requests from the audience to speak, so we'll move on to announcement and proclamation by the council. Anything the council this evening?
Yeah.
In that case, we're right on to staff reports. We'll start with our police chief, Jerry Hobry.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager, Board, constituents. You should have in your packet a monthly report of March and last month of February. March remained pretty busy, pretty steady. We had a total of 197 calls as compared to February of 192. Incidents and reports generated were 62 as compared to 60. We did not generate any warrants in March as compared to 3 in February. There were 7 arrests as compared to 5 in February. There was only 1 crash report in March as compared to 4 in February. Total traffic violation citations were 55 as compared to 56 in February. Non-traffic citations did increase. They were 11 in March compared to 2 in February. All of our officers completed the CPR and first aid refresher class that was hosted by the fire department locally. So that was very good that we didn't have to travel. Officer Hott has completed his training necessary to apply for advanced law enforcement certification and his instructorship in New Mexico and has submitted that. And we are continuing our in-house training for the FEMA Incident Command ICS training modules. And that is the report for March of 25. Last meeting, Mayor, you had asked to see a quarterly report comparing 2024 to 2025. I'm almost done with that. I will have it at the next council meeting to present.
Thank you.
And no questions? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, yes, Chief, on your non-traffic citations of 11, does that include code enforcement?
It does include code enforcement, and there were, I believe, 2 animal violations included in that. The rest would be anything that would be cited into municipal court, assault, disorderly conducts, and those type of petty misdemeanors.
Okay, thank you.
Next up is our tourism director, Greg Ralph.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Manager Ware. I'd like to invite everybody to our lodgers tax meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. We will be getting a presentation from Shift Media, the media buying service on a performance of our winter campaign. Got a couple highlights to share with you on it for right now. Between January 6th and March 7th, on our website only, not social or any other channels, we booked from the website 422 lodging reservations. The average booking was $1,465. Total revenue off those bookings was $618,660. Average length of stay was 3.2 nights, which plays to our normal average visitors. And the average daily rate on a room was $461. So we do have some analytics that'll justify the expenses we put into these things. We can show return on our investment, and we'll be able to do that moving forward. Our website is still being populated with information. We're still working on getting more lodging listings, work with the resort with all their property up there. We put our first webcam on it from the visitor center today. We'll be adding one to the airport this week. Our short-term rental permit process is open. We've issued 157 permits so far with $27,000 and $800 in revenue from those permits that is dedicated to workforce housing and future water rights things. Colfax County was awarded a $200,000 grant for advertising and promotion of our advanced air flights. The county asked the Village of Angel Fire to administer that grant, with Caristo Creative doing the work and the media placement on that. We will have to put up a $22,000 match on that, but we're working with the people on Advanced Air to put the plan together, put all their tracking mechanisms in the ads. We'll target the markets of Dallas and Albuquerque. We'll be running television, outdoor, and heavy social media. The flights resume on June 14th. We will start our marketing about a month early on May 14th for that plan. We have also applied this week for a $147,000 grant from New Mexico True. That's for social media advertising. That would require a $40,000 match on our part, but there's no reason to believe we wouldn't be awarded that grant. We're one of the favorite children of the New Mexico Tourism Office right now. So that's a great relationship to have. We're finalizing our summer marketing plans right now, have the media schedule all ready to present to Lodgers Tax Committee here in the next couple of weeks. We've got a heavy schedule of events booked for the summer from Memorial to Labor Day weekend. They're all contracted, booked out. Now we're working on the logistics of making sure we can pull off these events. And the visitor center traffic was up during spring break. We saw about 24 visitors a day, which is up significantly from the 2 we saw today. And the ones we're seeing now are pretty much just people coming in for short-term rental permits or business licenses. They're not really out-of-town visitors, but yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor. Greg, I should have asked you to do this earlier, but you shared with me those advanced air numbers for this past season.
They were sent to all council too.
Oh, they were, okay.
All council and Lodgers Tax Board members were given that full report.
Okay, perfect. That's all.
Oh, for the average on that flight for the season, average occupancy for advanced air was 47.7%.
Did you have anything?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I was out at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial yesterday, and the Cabinet Secretary for Tourism and his staff, and the Cabinet Secretary and his staff for Department of Veteran Services were all out there touring the memorial. I met them unexpectedly, and they're in the process of including the whole Veterans Complex in New Mexico True.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We should consider annex.
All right, next up is our Public Works Director, Kurt Epler.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. Quick report on Public Works operations. Streets Department started today milling up the chip seal on Valle Grande South. We were delayed a little bit on that project. Got going on that today. Tomorrow we'll continue with that work, plus have people working back on the temporary event center. Road maintenance is continuing in other areas. The contractor that was hired to place base course last year is actively reblading those roads, having density tests done right now. They made it up the lower part of El Camino Real up to Bell Loop today, and all the density tests are coming back with good results. With the water department, in the last week, they addressed two more ongoing leaks. They were small leaks, but had been going on for a few years, and we're able to address those. They have started installing water meters and filling water meter orders. Definitely well on track to have the list cleared up really soon. And again, they're all for the challenge that I've issued to them, and that's to get to a point where anytime we get a meter order, we can get that meter in within 2 weeks. The solid waste, we've been seeking proposals and to look at the possibility of putting scales out there. I did finally get response from one vendor, and he has issued a proposal. I'll be presenting that for discussion, hopefully the next council meeting. It would be a scenario where people would get weight going in and then weight coming out and billed by weight as opposed to yardage. Maintenance department is going to be start to do some mowing around the village area, even though everything's dry and dead right now. We're gonna be mowing some areas that traditionally have not been mowed. We have additional areas that we're going to be taking care of out at the airport. And picking up the equipment tomorrow that we have purchased that's gonna help us with the ability to do that. We've got a lot of areas we can make look a lot nicer if we just keep them mowed. The whole area back behind Village Hall where we plan to develop is another area that's gonna be kept clean here moving forward. Are there any questions?
Thank you. We have any committee reports this evening? If not, we'll move on to new business. So the public hearings will now open. Starting with item 1. A liquor license for Montezia at 8600 LLC DBA Angel Fired Pizza. Liquor license for Montezia at 8600 LLC DBA Angel Fired Pizza is now open for public comment. Does anybody have anything they would like to say? License for Montezia at 8600 LLC DBA Angel Fired Pizza is now closed for public comment. Moving on to item 2, amendment to Title 9, Chapter 2. Amendment to Title 9, Chapter 2 is now open for public comment. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. We have no allowance in our code for commercial agriculture at all. We don't have any water availability to sustain such an endeavor. It is prohibited across all of our zoning districts because it is silent. Our code, our zoning districts, if you wanted to do something, we have to see what's allowed as a permitted use within that zoning classification. It's been advised that this agenda item plus the next one kind of match together, that we be explicit to say that this activity is not allowed. So we are defining what a commercial crop production use is. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended that we add that this is only when considered as a main use, so that folks who are growing things in their backyard aren't penalized for having this. There's an accessory use at the Lutheran Church for their community gardens. That's fine. The main use is the church. It's not the garden. And so that provision was added at P and Z for consideration, but this is a 2-part step. We need to define it so that on agenda item 3 will say that it's not permitted to have access to public water. Stand for any questions you may have.
The only thing I'd add is, should you maybe put Title 9, Chapter 7 in parentheses at the end of this or something?
So that's
For
the next
reference?
part. So
I know, but
Yeah.
I want someone to read that and stop there.
well, I see what you're saying. We actually have to say them separate because it's two different sections of the code,
Okay,
but they run together.
okay,
So when you see it in chapter 7, it's gonna revert to chapter 2 for definitions.
Okay.
So that's where that overlap's gonna be.
Okay.
But we need to define it first, then go to chapter 7 to say it's prohibited to have access to public water. And just again, we've been pretty cognizant about any water usage in the village when it comes to cannabis. We've been very diligent to make sure that only certain elements that aren't taxing our water sources would be considered, and this is in the same line for consideration.
Anything else? If not. Amendment to Title 9, Chapter 2 is now closed for public comment. Moving on to item 3, amendment to Title 9, Chapter 7. Title 9, Chapter 7 is now open for public comment. Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Again, this is the follow-up from defining the term, being able to say explicitly in our supplemental regulations that this use shall not have access to public water usage. So they mirror each other, and there were no other recommendations at P and Z for this section of consideration.
There's nothing further. Title 9, Chapter 7 is now closed for public comment. We'll move on to item 4, amendment to Title 9, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Amendment to Title 9, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4 is now open for public comment. Mr. Martinez.
Sorry, just anxious. So we've had two different developers ask for an opportunity that if they dedicated a certain percentage of their project at workforce housing, that they would be considered eligible for a density allowance instead. The most allowance in our code is an R3, which is 20 units to the acre. That if they would be considered for a 30 unit to the acre project, 10% of that would be allocated to workforce housing. And so I've looked at some other codes where they've got formulas and equations that if you do 50 to 80% of AMI, X amount of units, you get this percentage. If you do 81 to 100, you get this. And this is just a simplified version of what I think exists in New Mexico. Housing New Mexico has programs that range, as we saw right now with workforce housing, up to 150% of median income. New Mexico Finance Authority has another set of programs that go up to 300% of median income. So that number that's in this proposal is to take advantage of both sets of funding sources in the state. That in talking to Housing New Mexico, I said, what's the difference in your programs? They say, we consider ourselves affordable at 150. New Mexico Finance is workforce housing at 300% of median income. And I think if our project manager was here, he'd share some of the challenges of trying to take $98,000 of household income to get into a unit. How do you get 2 people, 3 people to do that? At 300% of median income that New Mexico Finance Authority has, well, that's $138,000 based on Angel Fire median income. And so this is not a guarantee that, hey, if you give us 10%, that you automatically get 30 units to the acre. It's just an opportunity for consideration. So in this ordinance amendment, site plan and consideration would go to planning and zoning. It doesn't preclude the council to say, I want workforce housing to have this conversation as well. It's just the code only talks about planning and zoning. There's not a whole lot of other committees that our code talks about. So a site plan at minimum would be presented to P and Z with a recommendation forwarded to this body. And by giving that allowance up to 30 units the acre, there's some flexibility to say, yeah, 30 units that works. If it's better to be at 25 for that piece of property, at least it's over the 20 threshold. I have not heard anything back from these two developers that broached the idea. Is 10% too much to ask? No, 10% seems reasonable. Is 30 units to the acre, or are you talking 45 units to the acre? No, 30 to the acre seems pretty realistic of what we can do here in Angel Fire. Okay, so having those conversations, forwarding this to P and Z for their consideration, and bringing it to the council for adoption. Staff, any questions you may have?
And just to clarify, that's another 10 units. I mean, it's 20 units. and
Yes,
An extra 10 units,
and
which
every,
is significant.
it is, but again, the only way you get to 30 is you have to give us 10% dedication for workforce housing. You've done a lot of legwork with Workforce Housing Committee and also with this body to say, here's a governance document in our new Title 11. We'd like for that to mirror once that gets finally adopted and reviewed from legal, so that there's another catch to say that it's being managed correctly, right? It's not. We gave you an extra 10 units to the acre and then you sold it and now it's all at market rate. So I think there's gonna be some supplemental language once Title 11 governance comes out, but we really like these to mirror together. This is, I think, a really good step. New Mexico Finance Authority has some funding opportunities with a revolving loan right now. And that's one of the considerations on the criteria is, does the local municipality have any incentives for workforce housing? One of the developers is interested in making an application for the property in Angel Fire. That would be like an extra 3 to 5 or 10 points on their application to say, yes, an Angel Fire, we could get this. So I think this has a long-term positive effect with all the other efforts that the village is undergoing for workforce housing, that if we can get some of the private sector, some incentives to stay engaged, this is a very good step forward.
I think we'd like to see the private sector ultimately handling the workforce housing. This is a step forward in that direction.
And just finally, the recommendation is only for the overlay district within the village. And the reason is that there's a lot of vacant land that's already got water and sewer. So trying to look at some of the, the pockets in the core, we just made this first cut. Let's just put it in the overlay where we know we've got infrastructure and we're not coming up, 3,000 feet of new sewer mains. So that was the other part of this provision that I think was thoughtful to say, this is kind of where we want to see this taking access for that infrastructure.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. Title 9, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4 is now closed for public comment. And moving on to item 5, amend workforce housing, 4.29 acres from zoning district C1 to R6.
Sorry, I thought I was done.
To amend the workforce housing, 4.29 acres from zoning district C1 to R6 is now open for public discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item had been considered twice at Plan Commission. Last time actually received a favorable recommendation, the 2-to-1 vote. This is the property behind Zeb's that is zone C1. It's still within the overlay. From staff's perspective, converting commercial property that far away from the highway makes sense to go to residential. We had one phone call out of all the property owners notified within 200 feet of this request. The P&Z meeting, and the only question was, hey, can you buy my 15 acres too? That was it. So we've had no correspondence related to changing a C1 to an R6 from any of the property owners with the notification area. Staff recommendation and P&Z recommendation is to move forward to amend the zoning.
One thing I'd throw out there would be is if the village were ever to sell this property, that it may revert back to its original zoning. Something to consider.
Everywhere.
So with the grant, the $2.4 million grant that we've received, this property will not be sellable for 30 years. So in 30 years, that's plenty of time for future councils to make some sort of amendment like that or make that decision. But if we put the 2.4 million in the grant into this infrastructure, we're obligated to use this property for workforce housing for the next 30 years.
It would just, it's just basically the R6.
Yes, that's
Because
it.
there's, yeah.
Which is really just, all the Rs are just residential. So if 30 years from now, they wanted to convert it back to a C, that would have to be a separate application at that time. So.
What does R6 mean compared to R1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Big difference in all the Rs, is they all allow residential, it's just the R6 is the only one that allows a manufactured home on it. All the others allow, single family uses, depends on the density and the size. R6 is just specific to allow manufactured units.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Tim Hageman with the New Mexico Economic Development Department. I didn't raise my hand fast enough in the prior ones, but I will say something to. We had a real setback when we last had property that Angel Fire owned for a housing project many years ago. So I understand your comments about that. And I just encourage you to sit it out for the next 30 days and hopefully not have that occur again. I've also sat on the New Mexico Finance Authority Board scoring team, and we've reviewed opportunity enterprise applications. And I really encourage you to continue to go down that road in regards to incentives for housing and anything that's going to encourage the developer to continue to invest in Angel Fire. And we have some programs with the Economic Development Department called our LEADS program that might be able to help you with a portion of that project. And I'll talk to the fellows after the meeting tonight and let them be aware of the specifics. Thank you.
Anyone else? Workforce housing, 4.29 acres from zoning district C1 to R6 is now closed for public discussion. Finally, item 6. To update the uniform traffic code ordinance, correcting section B3, adding certain violations to the penalty assessment fine schedule. UTC is now open for public comment.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager. Presented this in April. It's now been published. This will change Title VI, the Uniform Traffic Code that was adopted in July of 24. It had a section D, which had been repealed at the state level, that was still in ours. I sat with Judge Hill and we made some very minor adjustments to some penalty assessments as I presented. And we added sections for failing to pay a fine or failing to appear in court as required. It has been reviewed by our legal department and Counselor Howell. We did add PO Box 16 into the address section that you had pointed out was not in there.
Thank you.
With that, I would recommend approval.
Any other comments or questions? C is now closed for public comment. Moving on to item B on our agenda, I'd like to open discussion to approve a liquor license for Mount Zia at 8600 LLC DBA Angel Fire Pizza. Are they on the strip run?
Mr. Mayor, Council, Manager Weir. Mountain ZA at 8600 LLC DBA as Angel Fire Pizza has already had its public hearing with the New Mexico Licensing Regulation and Licensing Department. The business address located at 3375. Is it Mountain View, Shay?
Yeah. Boulevard.
Mountain View Boulevard. Suite H is a C1 office, retail commercial zoning district, and the district allows eating and drinking in the establishment. The request for the liquor license has been published in the Taos News for 30 days from March 4th to March 5th through April 4th. And the village has not received any communication for or against the issuance of this license. And they currently, the establishment where it is, it was already a liquor licensed place. It's just got a new owner coming up. And I'll stand for any questions.
There's not any further questions or discussion. I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
Make the motion to approve a liquor license for Mountain Zia at 8600 LLC, DBA Angel Fired Pizza.
Second.
Roll call vote on item B. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
On to item C, open discussion to approve amendment to Title IX, Chapter 2. Mr. Martinez, I believe, explained that thoroughly. Do you have any other questions or comments for anyone? If not, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve an amendment to Title IX, Chapter 2.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item C. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
On item D, I'd like to open discussion to approve amendment to Title IX, Chapter 7. If there's not any questions or comments, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make the motion.
Make a motion to approve an amendment to Title IX, Chapter 7.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item D. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, moving on to item E, open discussion to approve amendment to Title IX, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4. If there's not any further discussion or questions, I would ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve amendment to Title IX, Chapter 11, Article C, Section 4.
Second.
Roll call vote on item E. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
I'd like to open discussion to approve amendment to the workforce housing, 4.29 acres from zoning district C1 to R6. Any further discussion or questions? If not, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve an amendment to the workforce housing, 4.29 acres from zoning district C1 to R6.
Second.
Roll call vote on item F. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Moving on to item G, open discussion to approve amendment to the UTC as presented by Chief Hograve. If there's not any further questions or comments, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve an amendment to the UTC.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item G. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. Moving on to item H, I'd like to open a discussion to approve artificial turf for temporary event center, Mr. Ralph.
Mayor, Council, Manager Ware, as you know, we started planning for a temporary events facility back there with a lawn at the time, a tent and a stage. The original cost of doing that lawn was about $60,000. It came to our attention that lawn was not going to be feasible moving forward in the village because of water and other issues. We'd like to go with artificial turf. We've gone through various plans and scenarios and what we'd like to do and build this area out. At one point, the artificial turf area reached a mass of 350 by 200 feet. And bids, we started collecting bids and comparing prices on these things. And our high bid on the big lawn was almost $1 million. So we are asking tonight to go to RFP to request bids for a 240-foot by 120-foot artificial turf area that would have a stage on one end that we've already purchased. The tent, the event tent would cover the 40 feet of the south end. But looking at the costs and the variables in this, we feel we really need to go up to RFP. We've already started working with Julie on the process, and with your permission, we will come back with bids and and a plan to get that completed.
I'm assuming you've already gotten some quotes,
Yes,
so you have an idea what this price point versus $1 million. I mean, it's something that's feasible for the.
Brandon, what's a realistic price on the smaller?
Realistic, using. This one's more. Mayor, Council, from Accent Landscaping, I got a quote of about 350,000. That's actually doing it close to what we're gonna be asking for, or we have the Neller board around the edges, connecting to that, laying it out, putting sand on top, making sure it's gonna work great and last a long time.
Product has about a 15-year warranty on it.
Yeah.
And with any care, you can get longer life out of them.
Manager Weir.
Greg, can you, share with us the capacity of that square footage?
Yeah, with that build out, you'd have 28,800 square feet of turf area based on 6 square foot per person for concert seating or festival seating. They estimate 6 square foot per person. You'd have a capacity of 4,880 people in that existing space, which will accommodate our needs for a couple of years as we see it. We rarely reach a 5,000 person event at this point.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add to that, if we do go bigger, we'd all like to go bigger. We have big dreams for Angel Fire, but if we do go bigger, parking's gonna become an issue. I think we're already, if we went to the full size that was in that plan, we're actually 82 parking spaces short of what would be needed to support that space. So, I think that right now, this is gonna be the right size to start with, see how we progress. And, again, it will give us more space for parking, which we may be able to find those extra 82 parking spots.
The turf can be expanded in the future.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
funding source for this,
Lodgers tax funds.
thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, there is another reason why I'm in favor of this size is, we do have $2 million earmarked for a new event center. And this money is gonna come out of that earmarking. And the more that we spend on this upfront, the less we'll have to do on the down payment, which will affect our ability to take out a loan because, you know, we don't know what grants we're gonna get yet for the event center, but we're estimating it's gonna cost, in the 10 to $15 million range to fully build a 30,000 square foot event center like we have planned to do. So I'm just afraid, you know, the 2 million's for a down payment on the event center. If we start spending that down too much, it'll affect our ability to get a large loan like that.
Any further questions or?
So we're voting to approve this coming back as an RFP, not one of these specific quotes.
I think
No.
what-
Yeah, that's right.
To go to
So
RFP.
what I would add, I was gonna address that next, and that's to ask Mayor Pro Tem how he makes a motion, to make the motion to approve going out for an RFP for artificial turf from temporary event center.
Make a motion to approve, going out for an RFP for artificial turf for a temporary event center.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item H, Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humber.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item I, I'd like to open discussion to approve a position change from lieutenant to captain. Chief Vance.
Good evening, Mayor Lindsay, members of the council, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. We would like to, our current structure of the fire department is there's the chief, and then under that, there are lieutenants on each respective shift in charge of their shift, and there's nothing in between. All three lieutenants, report directly to the chief. Like our, wildland structure, we have a captain on that side and we have engine bosses and then we have, the firefighters underneath them. We'd like to create an alignment, within the two departments so that there's essentially a logistical and, logistical and operational, leader of that department, to which everybody can report to. The enhancements we're trying to create is to improve incident command structure. So if we do have a large event, we have that structure already built in place. We're trying to improve our leadership and mentorship, and creating leaders underneath us. Our training and development will be ran through that station captain, and be spearheaded and, designed by that captain. Also, it will help our leadership coverage over the span of the weekdays and weekends. That lieutenant, if we do create a captain's position, will be on a rotating schedule and will hit all days of the week. It will also increase our interdepartmental communication. Now that fire administration has been moved out of Fire Station 1 and is now in Village Hall, there is the potential for communication breakdown that I'd like to avoid by doing that, and hopefully have an overall increase in morale. There will be a minimal financial impact by converting one of these lieutenant positions into a captain's position, by converting a previously budgeted fire inspector position, which we have not been able to fill for almost a year now, due to the 40-hour work week and the lack of workforce housing and some of the projects that we're facing here otherwise. That fire inspector position's duties have been covered by the state of New Mexico in the agreement that we've made in previous months, and that is going well with the current situation. We now have 2 firefighters that are able to do fire inspections and help out and assist, and so I feel like we're in a good position. And due to the difficulty of being able to fill that position, I'd like to make this following proposal, that we eliminate the fire inspector position and create a captain's position for one of the lieutenants. Any questions?
Sounds like it makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
So, and I agree with Mayor Pro Tem. So I think the motion should then be to approve eliminating a fire inspector position and creating a captain position.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just to be technical, we're eliminating a inspector position and converting a lieutenant to a captain position.
But we'll still have lieutenants. One captain position.
Right now, there is an A shift, B shift, and C shift lieutenant. One of those will be eligible, will become a captain.
And then we will then fill the lieutenant position.
We are not planning on backfilling it. We're just gonna have a captain work the 4896 shift with one of the 3 shifts.
I'm just the way that this is written, approve a position change from lieutenant to captain.
Right now, we have 3 lieutenants. One of those 3 lieutenants would be converted to a captain position.
Do we need to address the fire inspector position?
It would be best in the motion to mention that, or to state that the inspection position will be eliminated. And that, like it says in the, on the agenda, that there is a position change from lieutenant to captain.
Okay,
That makes sense?
so I would ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe then to make a motion to approve position change from lieutenant to captain and eliminate the fire inspection position.
I make a motion to approve a position change from lieutenant to captain and eliminating a fire inspector position.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item I. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Moving on to item J. Open discussion to approve 2 position staffing changes to joint utilities. Director Epler.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Council. What I'm proposing is a change in the organizational chart structure of joint utility department. Where traditionally there has been a single position as manager over joint utility. What I'm proposing, and this is something that has been in place in the past, quite a while back in the past, where below the public work director, there was a sewer superintendent and a water superintendent. But taking it a step further and knowing that there's a third major component to joint utility, and that's our compliance with our sewage treatment, our water reporting, water testing, everything involved with that. So what I'm proposing is to create one position titled sewer compliant and compliance operations superintendent and a water operations superintendent. I, as Public Works Director, will be still continuing to fill many of the duties that in the past the manager did in regards to managing and creating budgets, reporting to council, decisions on timing and planning for large projects, and have the day-to-day operations completely supervised by these individuals. It just makes more sense. This scenario has these superintendents as boots on the ground. As far as somebody that needs to be in the office taking care of that stuff, I can still manage those duties. And they are, even though those water and sewer used to be two separate enterprises and were combined into one, they're still totally separate elements that kind of each need their own champion. And it makes sense to me. It's within budget. Even though these positions, if approved, will be posted, we do have two candidates on staff right now that have essentially been doing the duties that these positions would require since the departure of the water department manager last February. And they've been doing very well.
I think it makes a lot of sense, and I want to commend you on everything you've gotten done.
Yes. Thank you, sir. I'll say once again, sir, we're just getting started.
Well, and just so everyone knows too, Director Epler's taken on a lot of additional responsibility, which is actually already started, but we're gonna be doing a lot of work in-house. In other words, not just road improvements, but just we'll be doing all the grading site work for the event center. He'll be doing all the roads and infrastructure for our workforce housing. We just have a lot of projects that he's gonna be managing in addition to, and has assured us that it will not impact the progress that he's made on existing roads, and we'll only see more improvements with our water and road system in addition to these projects. So all the help he can get, and if he has people he feels like he can trust to do that, I'm all in favor. So if nothing further, I'd like Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve 2 position staffing changes to joint utilities.
Move to that number. Okay, roll call vote on item J. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Councilor Crane,
Aye.
Councilor Weeks,
Aye.
and Councilor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Okay. Moving on to item K, like open discussion to approve of A and S doing the booster pump project upgrades. Director Epler.
Okay. I'll give a much more brief explanation than I did at the work session, which lasted 59 minutes. Thank you for hearing me out on this project. It's a significant improvement to our water distribution system. Essentially what it does is it gives us the ability to quickly refill tanks if they've been depleted for various reasons, leak, high usage, whatever. But another thing that it accomplishes for us is it gets us to more standardized sizing of our pumps. As I believe we have 7 different sizes and types of pumps right now. This should get us to 3. And what it does also is it gives us the ability to place a larger pump than what exists in a spot right now. The pumps are basically designed to maintain levels in water tanks. And when something happens where the water tank is depleted, just in the recovery amount of water that is supplied, it takes a significant amount of time to refill the tanks. By upsizing the pumps with the use of a VFD, variable frequency drive, it's like a volume control on a radio, if you will. You want quieter music, you turn it down. You want to rock and roll, you turn it up. And this will give us the ability to more quickly recover water from tanks, which is not just a big issue in regards to maintaining service, but it is an absolute must if we are going to be in a position where fire protection can be fully supported. And it is a rather large expenditure. Just a quick backstory, I would like to mention that when the water and sewer transfer agreement was done between the village and Angel Fire Resort, a wonderful gentleman named Daryl Benjamin at the time worked for Angel Fire Services. And when the water sewer transfer took place, he was the first, basically the first manager of the water department in Angel Fire's history. And this was in the mid-90s, and I recall having the discussion with him about this particular upgrade as something that needed to be done. So it's been a long time coming. I appreciate your support on it. It is a large expenditure, $702,602. And I'm open for any questions.
Will you be able to turn these pumps off from? You have to physically go to the site to turn these pumps off? Or you can
No, our SCADA system is all totally in place. And we have that ability right now to turn pumps on and off remotely. And these will be integrated right into that system. Along with this work and tied in with the SCADA system, we will be able to sense a leak in between tanks with that equipment. I'll go into that.
They're gonna pump more water, they'll be probably gonna turn them off faster.
I'd go into that discussion, but it's another 59 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I do want you to note that under the finance impact and review, this will be coming out of Go Bonds. So it will not touch the reserves that we have in the water department, which means those reserves can potentially be used for acquisition of water rights.
And get further explain that the GO bonds are used towards road improvements or water infrastructure improvements. So this falls within water infrastructure. Any other questions or comments? Not, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve S&A doing the booster pump project upgrades.
Second.
Roll call vote on item K. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to item L, like open discussion to approve a proclamation on International Dark Sky Week, April 21st through 28th, 2025. Tony Kaiser.
Mayor, council, Ms. Clerk and manager. I appreciate you taking the time to hear our request for a proclamation. We are asking for your support in protecting the dark skies by declaring Angel Fire's International Dark Sky Week to be April 21st through 28th, 2025. I thought I did, but I didn't, had just a fill in the blank sample proclamation for your use. But when I sent the information, I accidentally omitted it, but from what I understand, the village clerk has done a nice job of preparing a proclamation with your language rather than the fill in the blank. And I attached a copy of the proclamation from the governor of New Mexico to show the governor of New Mexico's support for the International Dark Sky Week. And as a background for this, in the United States and in Europe, 99% of the people live under a light polluted sky globally. It is a third of the entire population of the globe, yet very few are aware of the impact. The damage of artificial light at night goes far beyond just viewing the stars and disrupting our wildlife migratory patterns. Has significant impacts on human quality of life that warrant far more attention, often overlooked or falsely written off as the cost of keeping up with communities safe, despite the lack of evidence that brighter is better. Light pollution is destroying natural darkness with severe consequences. Scientists link light pollution to global insect decline, the death of millions of migrating birds, and increased carbon emissions and diseases. International Dark Sky Week raises awareness of light pollution and provides solutions to protect dark skies while enjoying the quality of outdoor lighting. International Dark Sky Week 2024 was a huge success, highlighted by proclamations from Miami-Dade County, Colorado, Utah, Michigan, as well as many other states and regions around the world. Proclamations for 2025 are currently underway. International Dark Sky Week events will be celebrated across the globe to help raise awareness of the benefits of community-friendly lighting and our heritage of dark skies. Once adopted, the Angel Fire proclamation can be sent to the International Dark Sky Association for increased awareness of our efforts in our community. We hope you'll consider this request for a Village of Angel Fire proclamation of International Dark Sky Week, and wish you the very best efforts in your efforts to lead our community. Any questions?
Manager Wade.
Mr. Mayor, if this is approved by the council, I'd also like to ask, Director Ralph to, work with some advertising to help promote this, proclamation again, if it is passed.
We feel that the proclamation would benefit, public awareness, not only public awareness, but, public relations, throughout the state and anywhere else that, it could be advertised, our websites, you know, a lot of social media that we are recognizing, the International Dark Sky Week.
So then though, I mean, during this week, you'd have some sort of event ideas, like viewing the stars.
Our committee has not planned anything. We were just hoping for a proclamation that would be widely publicized.
It's a good idea.
I have personally put out on social media, encouraging people to turn off their lights at night and view the skies, but we don't have anything organized now.
No glow in the dark frisbees.
No.
In all seriousness, I do think that getting this proclamation in place and having Director Ralph get it in front of the public is a good step in your efforts to have a dark sky community.
Mhm.
And it may create a couple events, right?
It really is.
Well, in the long run, that's our goal, is to be a recognized night sky community and have future events, the night ski. I think the resort has a few during the summer for night gazing, but that's just, you know, a foundation to expand upon for sure.
Questions or comments? No, that's Mayor Pro Tem, how to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve a proclamation on International Dark Sky Week, April 21 through April 28, 2025.
I'll second.
Does the proclamation need to be read for the record?
I'd be happy to,
Huh?
prior to voting.
I'd love to hear it.
Right here. Okay. The proclamation 2025-01 for International Dark Sky Week, April 21st through 28th, 2025. Whereas the breathtaking beauty and profound wonder of a natural sky is a cherished heritage shared by all humanity. And whereas the experience of standing beneath the star-studded sky invokes feelings of awe and inspiration, fostering a deeper interest in science and nature, particularly among youth and visitors to our vibrant communities in New Mexico. And whereas the pervasive issues of light pollution have been significantly linked to significant economic and environmental consequences, adversely affecting the ecology and human health across our community. And whereas approximately 80% of the world's population, including many residents of New Mexico, live under a veil of light pollution, excessive artificial lighting that obscures the natural darkness, thereby diminishing their connection to the visual splendor and ecological and health benefits that accompany a truly dark sky. And whereas light pollution represents a staggering waste of natural resources, costing the United States roughly $3 billion annually in wasted resources and wasted energy, while undermining our energy security. And whereas Dark Sky International, the recognized global authority on light pollution, observes International Dark Sky Week to elevate awareness about the effects of light pollution, provide invaluable education, resources, and practical solutions for the public, and promote the protection and enjoyment of dark skies along with the responsible outdoor lighting practices. Now, therefore, well, I can't go that far yet. Mayor Pro Tem Howard, I think.
I love this wording. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion and second?
There was, I just interrupted.
It was Counselor Weeks. I just want to make sure we're good. All right, roll call vote on item L. No, I'm sorry, item K.
Nope,
L.
item L, you are.
Oh, it was, oh, excuse me. Roll call vote on item L. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
Counselor Humbert,
Aye.
motion passed.
And you can say now therefore.
I'm not gonna let me off the hook.
Make sure you sign it.
Yeah.
Now therefore, I, Lindsay, Mayor of the Village of Vanderbilt, do hereby proclaim April 21st through 28th, 2025 as International Dark Sky Week.
This feels like a nicer vision. Sound good heavy people. I'll let you do that one.
Take pictures.
Yeah. Thank
We
you.
are taking pictures.
Thank you. Thank you. And any public publicity the village could have on this would be, a really great, public relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Well, now we'll move on to item M, discussion. Open discussion to approve addendum for vendor and units for the workforce housing project. We've got Counselor Crane there, but I know he's got.
Sure, so I'm just gonna present, so as you'll see on the note, the Workforce Housing Committee has proceeded forward with a vote to use Clayton Homes as the vendor for the workforce housing project. We've been working very closely with sustainability partners to see some of the numbers you'll see in their packet here, and I'm gonna shut up and let the experts go through what's in these papers here.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors, Manager Weir and Clerk Strickland. We've got a presentation coming up to just kind of run through some of what you see in the addendum before you in sort of plain English, but as sort of background, this is sort of a follow-up to a presentation that we made last year on this topic. And since then, there's been quite a bit of significant progress, really positive progress in the village. I know in securing the land, as well as getting some grant monies to support the site work. For our part, we have continued to be engaged to be able to deliver the units that are going to be on top of those. And that's been an effort that's been really undertaken over the last couple of months. Deeply with us in the workforce housing to kind of hone in what manufacturer we might want to go with, what are the preferences are, what are the other needs regarding that. And as part of that process, it's been really helpful for us as we've been engaging with the different vendors to make sure that we're actually creating what we consider solution alignment, which is actually delivering for the village exactly what you're seeking in the sort of phase one of this project. Can you kind of go down? This is a lot of just repeat of our standard benefits of the as a service model, but in essence, similar to our first project that we did with the village on the water meters, we're able to deliver the housing solution here as an as a service model. And so in essence, we're providing all the upfront capital to that. In our model, we'll be charging a month-to-month availability charge for the units. We will be also, as we move forward with the process, accounting for replacement costs of those units as well. So that's a major replacement component to it, which is really truly converting this unit and de-risking the investment on the village's behalf. That's sort of the general design of the model. If we go down to the customer timeline is really the key here. This is the timeline that we use as a standard timeline for all of our engagements with our customers. We've gone through this process before with the village, just to point out that we've already gotten up to step 3 already on this process because we already have our standard master utility services agreement executed with the village. Any additional project beyond that is just is included in what we call a service addendum to that contract, which is what was included in your packets this evening, referencing the specific identified units for the workforce housing solution. We'll stay on that timeline real quick. This is what we're trying to do right now in coordination with the Workforce Housing Committee as well as the Village Angel Fire is really coordinate these next several steps over the coming months in order to be able to deliver and successfully complete this project in 2025. And so this is the service addendum execution is just an iterative step in this process. From there, we'll go to steps 5, 6, which is really finalizing all the pricing, finalizing the details, finalizing the aesthetics, any other options you might want related to these units and the other components to that. That's something I'll go through later in the slides in terms of what steps we need to take next with the village and the Workforce Housing Committee, as well as the officials here to understand that. The notice to proceed, step 7, is really, that's when we're able to issue a PO to the manufacturer. So that's the step that we're trying to get to in really the next 60 days so that we can still meet that timeline of delivering these units in coordination with when the site work would be prepped to be able to receive those units. So again, where we're at tonight is really just step 4. This is an important but an iterative step in the process, and where we through under the direction of the Workforce Housing Committee have been able to sort of hone down into a vendor, which is Clayton Homes. And we have a series of 6 different unit models that they're currently in coordination with the engineer, trying to decide what the best composition is of those. And I know that we'll probably be having a workshop here this month to really hone in what models are we looking at for there, what the units in terms of the 2 2s, 3 2s types of units, any other features we might want to include in that are. So if we go down to the next slide, thank you, Leona. So the feature and really the driving force behind why Clayton Homes was selected, and again, the Workforce Housing Committee did a wide engagement with a number of different manufacturers, some that we provided contact with, some that had already reached out to the village. They were able to reduce that down to 4 different manufacturers that we reached out to get an understanding of their delivery schedules, their capacity to be able to do that this year, as well as what the cost might be, and provided the sort of pros and cons of that back to the committee a few weeks ago. Some of the features that really stood out for Clayton Homes in this, why they were sort of rose to the top ultimately, was even though there was primarily they could deliver the number of units, the quantity of units on the schedule that the village was seeking, which was 30 units in this year. What put them above, sort of neck and neck, they're running neck and neck with other manufacturers, but what really kind of pushed them over the top was the fact that they provide a unit that is DOE zero energy ready, which is a higher level of energy efficiency than the other units, which is, I know, really important for the village up here to ensure that we're not providing an affordable unit at an unaffordable utility bill combined to that. The stainless steel appliances were included in that, which was a little minor of an upgrade over the other manufactured units we were looking at. And then really the key one is bullet number 4 there, which is there's a gas heat option already included in this, right? So we can already have that included in there, build that to spec. It can be modified very easily to accept propane as well. So we know that that's gonna be able to make it a more affordable unit, especially on the heating during the harsh winters up here. Everything else is really, all these different units have a variety of aesthetic options, dormers, skirting, material, et cetera. And so we've really, this is just a rendering of a standard unit, but this is where we're gonna be working over the next several weeks to really hone in on what the village is really seeking for that. The pricing details, as it's put in there, we still have a range because there's still a small amount of variability in terms of the option and the size that the village would like to choose. For the purposes of tonight's addendum, what we did is we went the highest end on this. So we went to what the highest cost unit would be, the largest unit. We included extra contingency in there for additional needs. So there's like a 5 to 6% contingency in there. If we wanted to add a little deck on the outside, or if we want to have improved skirting options, other things that are going to improve the aesthetics and the livability of the units as they go forward. We've also, while this is a standard rendering that they put on, we've got the project as identified in that addendum in front of you with a dormer over the front entry door, right? So that one is going to be a safety thing to ensure that ice and snow don't fall down right immediately in front of the exit, but then also it improves the aesthetic of the unit itself. Again, I think we've got still a lot of different options to consider in terms of colors and interior features. And then finally, we've modeled this as we had been doing over the last year in our communication at a 3% annual increase or an annual adjustment, which is for this area lower than the year-on-year annual rent increase. And in the state, actually quite a bit lower of what we've seen over the last, since COVID, essentially, in terms of the annual increase. So we're keeping that at a very modest number because we don't want that rate to grow significantly year on year, to make sure that we're still falling in that affordability range. These are some of the model options. These are the different unit names. So there's 2 units, 3 units. They have different square footages. Again, we've quoted this right there and as at the highest level, the Voyage unit. There's some of the renderings on what the interior features look at that. But ultimately, over the next month, as we hone in on those specific features that the village is looking for, there'll be more certainty on that price. So the price that you see in front of you will only go down. It won't go up. We want to make sure that that was kind of the upper echelon of what we'd be seeing for that cost. And so that's kind of how we modeled it. And then finally, real quick on the timeline, this is just what we see as sort of the next step. So over the next, once we get the workshop on the calendar, we'll be here to confirm which model units we want, what are the numbers and quantities of them. Any of the major aesthetic features need to be identified at that point. Major meaning they might affect the cost. So we'll want to make sure that those are scoped out, and then we'll want to understand a high-level delivery schedule so that we're coordinating delivery of these, and they're not sitting somewhere but while site work is being completed. The 60 to 90 day schedule or needs are going to be really honing in any final features, converting all the maintenance, budget responsibilities. This is really in alignment with the governance document that's been produced in draft form. We'll want to come into alignment with that just to make sure we have all of the questions clarified on both sides. And then finally, we'll develop that detailed schedule in coordination with the Public Works Department, the engineering firm working on the site work, and then also identify some contingencies along the way, just in case there's unknown site conditions. For our side, on the units themselves, there's actually not a lot of variability in the cost. We'll be able to really get that honed in once we know exact details that the village are going to want. So I'll stand by for questions, but really appreciate the opportunity to present the project to the council this evening.
2 questions. One, a general square footage price at this point.
Square footage price. So there's variability between the unit, and for us, we're going to be assuming all that upfront cost. And so the cost that's in front of you, so is in front of that, the high end, we're looking at around $1,250 per month as a pass-through cost. No, we're not setting the rents. So I'll be clear on that we don't set the rents for this. This is availability cost to the village. The village and their processes will ultimately determine what the rents would be.
Okay. Second question, where physically will they be manufactured?
So these particular units are gonna be coming out of the Texas facility. There is an Albuquerque facility for Clayton Homes, but they make higher end units there that don't fit the spec for this particular one. So we've accounted for in that cost of delivery and installation from the unit, from the manufacturer in Texas. And included a little bit of contingency within it just to make sure that there's extra room there in case anything changes.
Thank you.
So all the numbers that you'll see in here, we've been focused on having just a pass-through per unit per month cost, because obviously that's gonna somewhat translate to our rent. The big question will be of the grant money that we have left over, how much of that are we about to plow into Director Epler's department to actually prep the site and have it ready to go? Before we will settle on what the rents will be, we're gonna have to figure out what, if any, extra monies will be left of that grant. The grant is allowed, if there's monies that are not going into infrastructure, they can go into units. So that final determination of rent is not something we've got yet. This essentially is an addendum to the existing Sustainability Partners contract to allow them, one, to go reserve the capital for this project, and also to continue with all their background paperwork with Clayton Homes and whatever else is gonna be necessary to actually issue an order.
Trying to get Mayor Pro Tem out of square foot price.
Yes.
Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to remind the council that, working with Sustainability Partners, even though this looks a lot like debt that the village is taking on, technically is not debt, does not count in any way affect our ability to, take out additional debt. So it's not viewed as debt service, from an accounting perspective. Effectively, the best way to communicate it, I think, is it's leased to own. So when we're out applying for other loans, this will not impact our ability to take out additional debt service.
Excuse me, right, but if I just add up everything here, that's the high end on the Voyager model.
Plus delivery, plus contingency, plus
turnkey.
installation, everything, yeah.
So that the highest it will be, Chuck, per unit, I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Howe, is $127 a square foot. Delivered, set up, and installed. Now, that does not count, obviously, the infrastructure work.
Right,
What
yeah.
we'll be doing, but that's the. As Ryan said, that should be the high end. We shouldn't see anything higher than that.
Thank you.
It's a fantastic rate for this valley.
Any further questions or discussion? If not, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem how to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve an addendum for vendor and units for the workforce housing project.
Second.
Roll call vote on item M. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Humbert.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm moving on to item N, excuse me, in discussion. I'd like to open discussion to approve resolution 2025-12, authorizing and approving submission of a completed application for financial assistance with project approval to the New Mexico Finance Authority. Manager Weir.
Yes, Mayor, Council. And Clerk Strickland. So back in our meeting on February 25th, we brought before the council a request to approve the application for, basically for the GO bond funds. That was approved and we did submit that. Where we missed the mark was technically NMFA requires it in resolution. So we submitted the minutes showing that it was approved. They said that was insufficient. So we're just trying to, this is just a resolution that needs to get approved technically to support what you've already approved. And we've already been granted, which is $1.8 million of GO bond funds. Just trying to make the paperwork right.
Any questions, comments? If not, I'd ask Mayor Pro Tem Howe to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2025-12, authorizing and approving submission of a completed application for financial assistance and project approval to the New Mexico Finance Authority.
I'll second.
Roll call vote on item N. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
Motion passed.
And moving on to item O. I'd like to open discussion to approve a part-time airport line worker. Mr. Gilmer.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, Manager Weir, Clerk Strickland. Hope you all had an opportunity to read the job proposal that I had sent this past week. What we're looking at right now is obviously here's the sun blazing through the windows at this time of day. So the hours are getting extended out. We're beginning to get calls from and actually scheduling flights in and sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock at night. In the past, a lot of those flights are missed, which is revenue lost for landing fees, fueling, items like that. So my proposal to you is that we have a part-time, 20-hour a week, benefit position that will help the supervisor out there extend the hours out from, usually they'll start as just as early as 6 a.m. and maybe even be going as late as 9 p.m. The reason I'm bringing it to you now is simply that we're in a low time. It gives an opportunity to get them trained and up to speed so that when we hit here in another month, everybody's good to go. We really need this. I do have another issue with one of our staff members there, which he may be checking out for a brief time. I know he doesn't care if I say this because he's going to have a baby. And so there's going to be some time off and that's going to leave a vacancy also during that time. So we're excited about that. So that is my proposal and I open up to you for questions.
If there are no further questions or comments,
Thank you.
ask Mayor Pro Tem to make a motion. Thank
I
you.
make a motion to approve a part-time airport line worker.
Second.
Roll call vote on item O. Mayor Pro Tem Howe,
Aye.
Counselor Crane,
Aye.
Counselor Weeks,
Aye.
and Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
Motion passed.
This evening is our manager's report. Mr. Ware.
Mr. Mayor, Council, and Clerk Strickland. A few items to report to the council. Dr. Rossi, who is going to be our medical director as well as the new medical doctor at the clinic. He has received his medical license from the state of New Mexico. He's also been approved by the DEA. And so he has one more approval that we should get, that was waiting on the DEA approval. That we should get literally any day now. He is already on the road on his way here. So we anticipate him actually operating, it's not a good word, working at the medical clinic within the next 2 weeks. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. We are also in relation to that, we have scheduled a meeting on the 17th of April here at Village Hall with the South Central Colfax County Hospital District to discuss them moving their clinic in Angel Fire to Frontier Square. The mayor will be there. They requested that Mayor Pro Tem Howe be there as a representative of the Veterans Wellness. If any other councilmen want to go to that meeting, you're welcome to, but you need to notify Clerk Strickland because we haven't done a quorum notice to the public yet, and we'll need to get that done pretty quick. But that is going to be talking about, well, it's just a very beginning of a discussion of them moving that facility over here, which I think is part of this administration's long-term goal, which is to create a community center. And I think the proximity to the ambulance, fire station, the new fire station, and the ambulances that will be serviced out of there, and making it part of the core of this village will be a great addition. And they did pass a bond for $2.5 million that they can utilize, and we'll talk about other revenue. There's some other grants and things that they're looking for and hoping to invest that money in a new structure as opposed to trying to remodel the current building that they have.
Mr. Manager, what time is that meeting?
It's at
2 o'clock to 4.
2 to 4,
Thank you.
The date.
April
17th of April, next Thursday. We also do need to schedule 2 work sessions for the council. I need to have one here in April. I'm recommending April 24th at 3 p.m. And this is for the budget. This is a budget workshop. After we get your initial feedback, and this also would be a public hearing. So it'd be a budget workshop where the public would be allowed to come and comment. We'll take those comments back, and then we'll need a final public hearing and budget workshop. I'm recommending May 22nd at 3 p.m. And then that gives us a week to take the final recommendations and changes and get them formatted so that they can be submitted. They must be submitted no later than midnight on June 1st. And by the way, we've already almost made it through round 2 of the budget process. There's 3 rounds. In our internal processes, we've already made it, for the most part, through round 2. So here in the next week or so, we'll be initiating round 3, which is the numbers that we'll be presenting y'all on the 24th. And then from there, hopefully, it's just taking into account any items that pop up in that meeting that we'll be trying to make adjustments for, and finalizing that on the 22nd. I will tell you that several months ago, you may recall that we hired a new director of planning and zoning, Reginald, and I butcher his last name, so forgive me, but it's Borgios, I believe, Borgios. He's never corrected me. I've said it 3 different ways to him. He lets it go. I don't know how to say it. Anyhow, he did come in and spent the day here at the village yesterday, sat through a direct reports meeting, spent a lot of time with Santos Martinez, and he will officially be starting next Monday as a planning and zoning director. It's going to take him several months, even though it's a very intelligent gentleman, 50 years in total between his service in the Army and 20 years in the Army, 30 years in the Army Corps of Engineers. Maybe I have that backwards. I can't remember which way it was, but 50 years total of service to our country. He's finally retiring and moving to his vacation home here, which is out in Valverde. Anyhow, he was real excited. A brilliant guy, has a lot of experience. He's basically been in charge of the Corps of Engineers, rivers and dams from El Paso, the western part of Texas around El Paso, and all of New Mexico for the last 10 years. So he's been done a great job there and is ready to retire, but he is the type of person that he can't sit still. During his service in the armed services, he's obtained a PhD, has a few master's degrees related to the work that he did with the Corps of Engineers. Mr. Mayor and Council, that's all I have, and I stand for any questions. Or sit for any questions.
Questions for the manager? I'll turn this meeting.